Welcome, Raptor fans, to OG 25th Reunion, Episode 2. We are live on YouTube. It's driven by Zoom. And I'm your host, Paul Jones. We're super excited about tonight's event. Last week, we had Isiah Thomas on, John Bitove, and the Honorable David Peterson, former Premier of the province of Ontario. We had some special guests, some dude named Samuel L. Jackson, who was actually the Raptors' first super fan. Along with our own Nab Bhatia, and you never know who Sam might be hanging out with. And Magic Johnson was able to join us for a bit too. So if you want to go back and see that, you can go ahead and see that. Tonight, we got a lot planned for you. We have the players. This could be a little bit crazy because they're all waiting in the waiting room. I'm going to ask one of the driving forces behind this, our director, Brian Sherriffe. Was our first director for Raptors broadcast, former supervising producer at ESPN for basketball. Also still works for the NBA. He's a lifer. And a shout out to Elaine Quan, who was one of the original Raptor employees hired 25 years ago. Did a terrific job in putting this all together. And hold on to your hats, folks, because we've got most of the players kicking around from year 1 and 2. As a matter of fact, if you remember the Raptors starting lineup on opening night, we got a couple of them here. Brian, let's bring all these guys into the room right now. From UCLA, I've known Tracy for a long time. He was part of the US Pan Am team that trained in Toronto back in '91. He became a Raptor. I was thrilled to see that. Tracy, good to have you here, my man.
Thanks for having me on, Jonesy, Elaine, everybody.
Reggie Slater. Everybody thinks the greatest player from Wyoming would be Theo Ratliff or Fennis Dembo. Hell no, we got Reggie Slater in the house. Reggie, great to have you. Last time I saw you, you were cruising the hallways of the United Center at All-Star Weekend.
I've been doing that ever since I left the Raptors.
Pepperdine's finest, a native of Seattle, sporting the Mariners hat. Now in the broadcast realm with the Sacramento Kings. Was traded to Toronto from the New York Knicks, and boy, that's a story we'll have to tell. Doug Christie. Doug, thanks for coming in, man.
I appreciate all the love, Jonesy. Great to see everybody.
The original Biggie right here. They had a guy in Brooklyn, but we had ours in Toronto. The Rookie of the Year, Isiah drafted him because he knows good guard play always wins. He's now a coach at the University of the Pacific. I was thrilled to tune in and watch the conference tournament and see him doing his thing on the sideline. Damon Stoudemire. Biggie!
What's going on, Jones? What's up, fellas? And first of all, everybody got a chance to watch it. We got our butts kicked, man, but it happens.
He had the Raptors' first 40-point game, if I'm not mistaken. Iowa Hawkeye joining us on the line, and great to have him in here. He goes by Coach A. Earl. You can find him on Twitter, AC Earl. AC, what's up, man?
What's going on, everybody?
Hey.
There it is right there. AC Earl. Yes, sir.
Now it's getting crazy. We got a whole lot of boxes on my screen. Down in the lower corner, this man looks like he could still give me 20 and 10. My nickname for him was Hercules when he played for the Raptors, and he's one of the few to play for the Raptors and the Grizzlies. Doing his media thing with the Wizards now. D-Mass, Tony Massenberg. What's up, team?
What's up with y'all, man?
It's still like that. All right. I'm going to go quickly around the horn here and ask you guys, when you got moved to Toronto, Damon, you were drafted, but Tracy, Reggie, Doug, AC, T-Mass, you guys had all had other stints in the NBA. Give me a minute or two. What the heck were you thinking when they said to you, you going to Toronto? Tracy, let's start with you.
They were already there. They were going to training camp.
Yeah.
They were in training camp. I was sitting at home working my ass off, and no one was knocking on my door. So my situation was different than theirs. So my agent was trying to work some business, and we noticed the salary cap situation of the Raptors right back then. There wasn't no more money to give because it was an expansion draft. So I had to agree to a minimum, I was just looking for the opportunity. I saw Damon up there. I knew Damon played against him. I done played. I done seen T-Mass. I done played against most of these guys in the league already. Me and AC played against each other all through high school and college. So I was like, well, shoot, let me go on up here, get this opportunity that, you know, I needed a second chance. And what better second chance than to come to an expansion team with people that you know. And Isiah, I played against Isiah, and he believed in me from the beginning. He was asking me the year before in Detroit, when his last year, was why wasn't I playing in Portland, and, you know, would you like to come to Detroit? So it was a natural fit to come to Toronto with him as general manager.
Nice. Hey, Biggie, we need some light on your face, man. It's like you're in the shadows right now. So,
hey, man,
if you have to check out for a minute to get some light, I got you. Or close that window beside you.
Let me switch I might have to switch rooms or something. Let me get more in this. I don't know. I don't want to take my hat off. I need a cut.
Hey. Unless you're like this, everybody needs a cut.
Maybe
like this, everybody needs a cut. Reggie, tell me what happened, how you ended up in Toronto and what you thought when they sent you here.
I was actually just coming off an injury the year before. So again, just to kind of mirror something that Tracy said, I was looking for an opportunity. And they already had some guys on there, Damon, Doug, Walt. So I was just trying to assist and be the best fill-in that I could, you know, to make whatever needs to be happen. So.
Doug, I know the story about you with the Lakers, then with the Knicks, and your agent, J.R. Harris, saw Isiah at the All-Star game in San Antonio and just kind of walked by and never met him and said, my guy needs to be in Toronto. And next thing I know, because Mark, you had a relationship with Mark. You had known Mark from his days at ESPN. And he said, man, you're getting a great two-guard. You're getting Doug Christie. Doug, tell me about it was your third stop, Toronto, in the NBA.
You know, the trainer for the New York Knicks came to my door, and I'd been asking for a trade. And as soon as he came to the door, I said, what's up? Because I know you have my house for a reason. He said, man, you got traded. I said, where I get traded to? He said, Toronto. I was like, okay, Toronto. Listen, like everybody else, I was looking for the opportunity to play Isiah from the first day. He just said, look, man, we're going to play you 40 minutes. Don't look over at the bench. If you make a mistake, try not to make the same mistake twice. I knew who I was coming with, especially with Damon being from the Pacific Northwest. So it was all love. Then I met characters like Mass and AC Earl. Ace, it's really good to see your face, baby. Yo. And I knew Tracy, and you know, to meet Reg, and it was a family atmosphere, man. A lot of jokes, a lot of different things. It was a really good vibe, and just more than anything, man, the opportunity to get out there and ball.
AC, you had been in the league for a while. Damon, I'm saving you for last because we're going to hear what the rookie thought when he got drafted to another country. AC, what happened? How did you get to Toronto?
It was funny. My last game with the Celtics, we played the Miami Heat in March. I was walking out of the arena, and John Sally was playing for the Heat, and he said, "Are you ready to go to Toronto, big fella?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, my sources tell me we're both going to Toronto." And I said, "Yeah." And so, you know, as all you guys can attest to, your boy John Sally always thought he had the privy information. So on that one, so a few months later, the draft comes. I get drafted in the expansion draft, and John Sally called it. So there it was. So I didn't know what was going on, but John Sally had told me in March, last regular season last regular season game in April, he said, "You're coming to Toronto." So rest is history. And you know, these brothers right here, I'm so good to see them. I haven't seen them in a while. So
I saw you in Chicago.
He's obviously saying that you're forgetting.
Yeah, Reggie, I saw you, right? Yeah, I saw you, Reg, but I haven't seen Doug and and Damon. Congratulations to you. I follow you on. Me and my son follow you on. So congrats, T-Mass. Good to see you. My boy Tracy Murray. It's just great to be here, fellas.
T-Mass, tell me about coming to Toronto.
Well, for me, man, it was I was in LA with the Clippers at the time, you know, way before Lob City and all of that. You know, it was Sob City. But we were able, we made the most of it, man. You know what LA does for you, even playing for the Clippers. So I had a pretty good year. Had just come back from Barcelona, actually, because I was overseas after playing for the Spurs my first couple of years. So much like Tracy, you know, I had signed a 2-year deal with the Clippers and was coming up on that second-year deal and was just thinking it was going to be all good. And then here comes the expansion draft, and I get left unprotected by the Clippers, and I end up being the second pick in the draft behind Benoit Benjamin, who went first pick in the draft, I believe, to Vancouver. So that's how I ended up in Vancouver. I ended up in Toronto, and, you know, I don't think I'm remiss in saying we all enjoy the benefits of being the new guys on the block and being embraced by the city. So that was an experience I never will forget.
Damon, can you show us Mighty Mouse Damon just for old time's sake?
It might be too dark, man. I don't know. y'all on there about dark.
Oh, man, there it is. There it is.
Going on out here.
There it is.
What were your thoughts when you got drafted to Toronto, going to another country? At Toronto and Minnesota had the picks in the middle.
Yeah.
They wouldn't allow them to have the number 1 pick. So like, it was you and Kevin Garnett in that year. Yeah. And it's not like you were going to anywhere in the U.S. At least Kevin got to go to Minnesota. You coming to Canada.
Yeah. No, it was I knew I was going to go 5 or 7. Kevin McHale said, he told me if Kevin Garnett wasn't there, they would draft me. And then Isiah said if Kevin Garnett slipped to 7, or didn't slip to 7, and they would draft me. So I knew I wasn't going to Vancouver because I didn't work out. It didn't matter. I could have went to Mexico. I was happy to be in the league. It really didn't matter.
There you go.
I wasn't even worried. I wasn't worried about who drafted me. The only thing I cared about was, man, you know, just you know, getting drafted and having that opportunity. The rest of it, truthfully, it didn't matter. But then when it was a lockout that year too for everybody. So I know everybody, it was different for everybody on here because, you know, what AC and Mass were there, you know, from day one. So it was weird because the lockout ended. And then I remember like it was yesterday, so I had to come and I actually signed the contract there, and then we got on the bus to go to Hamilton. You know,
there you go.
We went to training camp. We went to training camp in Hamilton, and so you know that. But I didn't really care. I promise you, it didn't bother me none, man. I was so happy to be in the NBA and part of that NBA family at that time. I could have went anywhere.
All right. Well, this is episode 2, folks, of the Raptors' 25th anniversary reunion. We were supposed to all be together in Toronto, but COVID-19 has had us do it this way. Shout out to Brian Sherriffe and Elaine Quan, who have done a terrific job in organizing this. Everybody looking good. Doug, I need you to reframe, man. You're on the right wing right now. I need you to come to the middle lane right now. There you go.
Well, you know, that was kind of my thing.
I know.
Be on the right side. You know what I'm saying?
You're on the right. And I could only imagine and Isiah talked about this last week, that he wanted to play the way they're playing now with all you guys, with Tracy and Damon and Doug. And he says, you know, like the power forward position, like Tony being, quote, undersized as a powered forward and be able to do those things. I remember AC's 40-point night. He was knocking – AC wasn't near the hoop, man. He was knocking down jump shots in Boston and, like, talking to people. So I know Isiah wanted to play that way. Guys, tell me what makes the Raptors, from all the places you've been and watching the team win, what makes it so special to be in Toronto? What made your time in Toronto so special? Because all of you were through there in a very quick time period. And once the team really got rolling, you know, Doug, you were around for a bit, but Tracy, Damon, Reggie, AC, Team Mass, you guys helped lay the foundation. So let's go in reverse order. Team Mass, what really struck you about Toronto?
You know, the one thing that I really noticed about Toronto, because again, a guy that's played in a bunch of places like I did, first thing I noticed was the city's willingness to embrace the sport. this was a hockey town when we came in. People forget about that now because the Raptors have been there for 25 years. But the guys on the original team, the guys who were there from day one in training camp, it was a hockey town. And some of us felt like, okay, we're going to have our work cut out for us trying to win fans over to give us the same type of passion that they devote toward hockey, because that's a native sport. So it's different. And for a lot of people who were in Canada who would follow hockey pretty much their whole life and never even saw an NBA basketball game because it just wasn't part of what they did, we were trying to win those people over, and there were a lot of people like that in the city. So at some point, you saw the shift start to happen. And again, this started to really happen long after I was gone, meaning you saw the city of Toronto start to shift in that direction of giving the passion toward basketball like it did toward hockey. And to see it play out the way it did with them winning a championship, that's when you saw it full bore. I mean, that's when you saw it all on display. To me, it really, I'm going to say the turning moment was when I saw people in Jurassic Park. The first time I saw Jurassic Park, I don't remember what year that was, but the first year that I saw that they had thousands and thousands of people starting to gather outside the arena, that's when I knew basketball had truly arrived in Toronto.
Tracy, you'd been to Toronto before, so did you have any kind of feel for this?
Yeah, of course. I mean, walking up and down the street of Yonge Street, just being up there for the practice games against Team Canada, I noticed that no one really cared about what was going on basketball-wise. It was about, and it was also about the Blue Jays, because the Blue Jays just won a World Series. Right. So the city was still, hype about that. They always hype about their leagues. I remember the first year turning on TSN, and I'm looking at the version of SportsCenter, and I'm seeing hockey number one, a lot of hockey highlights, then the Blue Jays, then the Argos, then curling. I'm like, what the hell is curling? And then any other winter sport, and then, oh yeah, by the way, the Raptors lose to so-and-so by the score of this and that. And then that was it. We weren't on any highlights early. Right. So we really had to bust our ass early and play hard. I think the first win against New Jersey, it woke people up. It's like, oh, we won our first game. So, and then everybody getting out in the community, doing their appearances. Yep. I remember my first appearance, autograph signing, was somewhere, I didn't even know where I was. Me, the Raptors, 6 dance pack members, only 3 people came up the whole night. That's how it was at the beginning.
Reg, what do you remember so fondly about Toronto, Reggie?
Me, I like big cities. And, Toronto definitely was a big city that didn't have the big city crime. Clean. To echo what these guys said a few minutes ago, it was unusual to come up there and see hockey being number one and basketball being an afterthought. But, it was, I dug it up there, man. Just cool players, and I liked it up there.
AC and Doug, you guys were in major centers. AC, you were in Boston. Doug, you were in LA and New York. So tell me about what grabbed you about Toronto. What do you remember fondly about it? AC, let's start with you.
Well, just like what a lot of the guys said, I think the people was number one. They were so nice. They were so welcoming. They had waited for us for a year and a half because they did the naming ceremony, the logo, picking the mascot. So as soon as we got there, they were like waiting for us. And so I was fortunate enough to be there for a few months. It was me, I think BJ Tyler, John Sally, I think Bass might have been there. Then Tracy came, and then, we drafted Damon and everybody else. But it was just so fun to be there. It was so enlightening to play in the Skydome and kind of turn everybody to basketball, because like the guys said, hockey was big, baseball was big. And then we got the movie stars to come out. So I remember when Samuel Jackson all the time. And so we were like, hold on, Samuel Jackson is coming to see us play, and it just took off. And I think the second part is it was a chance for all of us to rewrite our narrative on basketball. Yes. You know, everybody had kind of fell through the cracks in some kind, and so we all got a clean slate. Like I remember our first few practices, we were doing stuff to each other, like making moves, and guys were like, "Oh, you do that? Oh, you got that in your game? Oh, okay, go right ahead." So
I remember
it was
that.
like just enlightening to see everybody kind of get their game back to what we all knew they could do.
Right.
I remember just a funny story. I remember Doug Christie's first day when he got traded from the Knicks. He was in the locker room getting taped. And we were like, we don't tape here. And Doug was like, oh, man, we tape in the Knicks. And we were like, man, you got to take that tape off because if people see that tape, we might start taping. So we told Doug, you got to take that tape off. Man, we shoot. Man. I said, man, we shoot here. We don't go 5-on-5. So it's funny that everybody had their own kind of way, and then we all meshed together, and we were just like a band of brothers. It was one of the most lightning times of my basketball career.
Awesome. Doug?
Oh man! First of all, New York Knicks practices, AC Earl. I mean, they shoot arounds was like practice. So
right.
And you tape for shoot around.
Right.
You know, more than anything, man, the people were absolutely incredible. My first thing was it was cold as hell. I got off the plane. I was like, oh damn, it's cold. But it was just, I would say that the first time that I really thought, okay, basketball here is about to be the thing was when we played against Michael Jordan and those guys at the Skydome. And it was probably about 50 or 60,000 people. And I would say a third of them probably could see the court because that thing was packed. And you know, when they had the power sticks on the wrong end of the floor and we were shooting free throws and they were doing the power sticks and I was like, yo man, who did that? You know, them joints must be together. Right. But man, it's incredible. I mean, for you Paul, you of Jamaican descent. When I found my Jamaican restaurant, I got the jerk chicken. I was off the hook, and then all the different types of foods and different things. Man, Toronto is a first-class city, and it was a privilege and an honor to play there, man.
Damon, you were basically the face of the franchise. I mean, people knew you because of you know, your success and your notoriety from Arizona going to the Final Four. As a matter of fact, some people were foolishly chanting for Ed O'Bannon. How did that work out? Sorry. But Damon, you were the face of the franchise. Sorry, Tracy.
Stop it, Biggie.
Damon, the face of the franchise. What your thoughts on, you know, coming to Toronto and really trying to lay the groundwork for basketball for a team that was brand new?
I just, you know, once again, I say when I got there, I was just happy to be in the NBA. I just wanted to play basketball. I didn't know anything else. But the one thing that when I did get there, what stood out to me early on was the city, how nice the people were. I really enjoyed, like I think Tracy said, I enjoyed walking up Yonge Street. I enjoyed Bloor Street more, though. I enjoyed Bloor Street. That's where I went every day after practice.
No doubt.
That was my lane. You know, you go over there, you got Little Italy, you got all these little huts. And you know, I was a single man at that time, so you walk up and down the street, and man, you know, it's just that. You know, it was nice.
Tell on yourself now.
You know, yeah, I can. It's okay. Hey. And you know, I just, you know, I think for me, as much as I love the city, I feel like as a rookie, I couldn't have came in with a better group of guys. I think that they taught me, and we had fun together. I mean, I got, you know, I got stories that I think about with each one of these guys, because we all had a great big relationship with each other, but when we got alone, if we were together, we had our own relationship too. And I think that was the beauty of it. So I was just happy, honestly. You know, when you're a rookie, you come in, it didn't matter to me because I didn't really know. I didn't know what the expansion draft meant. I didn't know that. You know what I mean? I didn't know what it meant. I really didn't. So when dudes was coming, I was like, man, perform. Like, you know, I didn't know. Like, you know, and that was the beauty of it. It was all so new to me. So practice, then the games, preseason, man, that was preseason like the real season to me. I didn't know no better, you know. So the city of Toronto, I think that it speaks for itself. But I think that the guys that I came in with, this group of guys, and then the guys that are on the next chat, like those were the guys that made it fun for me, you know, as a rookie.
Okay, I'm going to go around the horn here. Tracy, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Reggie. What Isiah's impact on this, because your general manager now is a two-time NBA champion. He's not some guy who just sitting in an office or nobody you've ever heard of. Your general manager could probably get out there and outshoot some of you guys. But Tracy, talk to me about Isiah's impact on the team as a general manager early on.
Well, his impact was tremendous because at the end of the day, he had a personal relationship with everybody too. He played against most of us. Biggie was like his little brother, man. He put his arm around Biggie like, yo, man, do you? You know, we got you to lead. We got you to be the face of this organization. And he took him under his wing and really rolled with him. But everybody that came in, like Doug, he told me, he gave me green light. Look, go hoop. Don't look over your shoulders. You got minutes, shots, opportunity. Go hoop. Same thing with Doug. Everybody was young, hungry, needed a second or third opportunity, and it couldn't have been for a better person. He knew everybody needed this shot. He wanted everybody to play extremely hard and loose. And then he had the right veterans around us to teach us how to play. Because who is the nickname that we named that everybody should play in a Raptor uniform after? The Raptor. Who is that? Alvin Robertson. Right. Alvin Robertson was named the Raptor.
The Raptor.
He was down.
Exactly.
He was down for a couple of years with a back surgery. He's coming in at 36, 37 years old and outrunning everybody. Now, when you have that type of leadership with the same thought process as Isiah, and then you got dudes that are like, I'm not going to let this dude outwork me and he's old, right? So you had everybody coming in and adapting to his mindset on how hard he went on the court. We followed his leadership. We followed Biggie's leadership. We followed Isiah's leadership. And then you had our camaraderie was just unbelievable. And it started with Isiah.
This is episode 2 of the Raptors OG 25th reunion. Episode 1 was last week with Isiah Thomas, John Bitove, David Peterson, Samuel L. Jackson, and Magic Johnson. You guys need to go back. Damon, I know you were watching, but you guys need to go back and watch some of that.
Man,
we got episode 3 next week with the game ops, and then the broadcast crew, episode 4.
Hey, Paul, one thing, man, before we forget. I mean, because it has to be said. This dude, A.C. Earl, he's the one that gave everybody the nicknames. He gave Alvin the nickname the Raptor.
The Raptor.
Yep.
When Doug got traded, he started calling him Stretch Haji.
Yeah.
He used to call your partner Mike Inglaze, Mike Bouchetta, because remember we used to get that Bouchetta on the plane. And then he started calling Sal big and tall for throwing all the parties.
Now, hold on, Reg. Reggie Slater.
Right.
Yo.
Reggie Slater, you had the nickname. Somebody, I thought your nickname was Bolo. Where did that come from?
Oh.
Well, first of all, I'm laughing a little bit at Doug and Tracy and Damon because they're like, hey, when I got to Toronto, Isiah told me green light, this, that, and other. Isiah never told me that. He's like, somebody go pick for Biggie, go pick for Doug. Somebody with an elbow when you come around for the pick. And that's so you guys had information that I didn't know about. But I wanted to put that out there first of all. No, But yeah, great group of guys, man. What a great group of guys.
AC, at one point in the back end of the first year, as Damon talked about the nickname, everybody had the last part Custis attached to it. That was you, right?
Yeah.
Because there was a young man who was a terrific player named Ace Custis, and I think somebody mistook you for him in all of this, right?
Oh, man.
Yeah, there was some. Yeah, there was some mix and matching, as they would say. So,
Hey, Pete.
yeah. So with Isiah, with me, I had it was kind of weird. I had a little bit of relationship with him previously because the 2 years before he was going to possibly draft me with Detroit, and he didn't. He took Lindsey Hunter and Allen Houston, I believe. And so then when we talked, years after that, he was like, "Hey, I saw what you did in Boston. I think you can do some things here. I'm going to give you that opportunity here to kind of show what you can do." So yeah, like I said, for me, it was a second chance. It was a great second chance. And I love what he taught us. And I don't know if the guys remember, he taught us one time to go through the calendar every month and pick out the games that we can win. And I use that even today when I coach with AAU and the kids and stuff. And I say, okay, hey, these are the tournaments we can win. These are the games that we should win. So, we were an expansion team. We knew we couldn't win every game we played. But he said, you guys need to get together, trust each other, and pick the games that you could win. So I think he taught us some things about ourselves and learning how to win early on that nobody had ever taught me. I mean, I played in Boston for 2 years, played with Chief, and Dennis Johnson was my assistant, Chris Ford was my coach, Larry Bird was the scout. The Celtics never taught me how to win. So it's funny, like that first year, Isiah taught us some things about how to win as a team.
Hey, so he told Ace to circle Chicago and Orlando.
Those were two signature wins.
Yes.
The Bulls were 72-10 that year, but they came to Toronto, and one of the 10 losses
we got them
was to the expansion Raptors. I wasn't going to go there right now, but since we're here,
thanks to the Raptor. Thanks to the Raptor for throwing that party.
Yeah.
No doubt, Paul. But before you go there,
Sally's party.
Before you go there, man, I gotta speak on Isiah, man, because I've texted him personally. I think me and Biggie had this conversation when I went down and did a game at Pacific, but Isiah was so far ahead of his time, man.
Yes.
I mean, he would just show us videos of paradigms and paradigm shifting. He gave us notebooks, told us how to break down players. We would put on how many points we think we are going to get, how many points they're going to get. Then we would fill in the real numbers. We would go back. There were so many pieces of the puzzle. He broke down money in the NBA and how the money would get broken down and how to keep the team together and how to play an up-tempo style. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I see today, he was trying to do it then. I mean, even when you look at how he drafted Damon, he was what you might say an undersized guard, but had incredible handles, could score the basketball, leading the team, and that was when a time when big men were still in vogue. And he was like, "Nah, we're gonna do it like this." In the meetings and the conversations, I lived in the same building as Isiah, and he would call me up to his condo and sit down and like AC said, like, I have been with the Lakers, with the Knicks. Now the Knicks, I will say Pat Riley teaches you a lot, but I had never the information that I got from Isiah. In a quick one, when I got married, my wife went to the gym with me. Me and Isiah are playing one-on-one. Okay, and I knocked him down. And afterwards, she was like, "What the hell are you doing? Isn't that your general manager?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think he was testing me." But Zeke was so ahead of the curve, man. I had to give him love, man, because dude was special.
Damon, you know this cat coming in here?
Yeah,
Jersey Coach Shu,
Hey, Shu, what is it? Is it? You got them little shorts in the background. Is that your Notre Dame?
That looks like a thong back there, man.
No, Christie, what up, man?
What it do, baby?
God, none of you guys look a day older, man.
Let me jump in and say this. When you guys were still kind of a thought in your old man's ear or your old man's eye, I was watching John Shoemate rec shop for my Buffalo Braves when I was in Toronto starving for basketball.
Yeah, and make sure you get that, Doug.
Oh, no doubt. Also, Tracy's up there on the UCLA tip. I know you still enjoy that spanking.
We did a spanking also.
John, tell us how you ended up in Toronto. All the guys have told us how they got there. How did you get there? And tell us about your relationship with Isiah.
Well, I didn't know Isiah really personally, but I knew of him and him knowing of me as well. And I was at the time I was coaching. I was a head coach at SMU, and I had just left there. And I was walking down the street at some event that was taking place, and I happened to see Isiah, and because him at IU and all that, and Notre Dame, so I had a lot in common. So he said, "Hey, Shu," and so we just started talking. And he said, "What are you doing now?" And I said, "Well, I was a head coach at SMU, and I'm in the process of transition." And he said, "Hey, well, I'm in the process of transitioning a new organization." I said, "Really?" And he said, "Would you be interested?" I said, "Absolutely." And that's where it started from.
Awesome. Tony, tell me about your relationship with Isiah.
Well, for me, because like I said, I got traded in February. I didn't get a lot of time with Isiah, but the time that I got with him, the biggest thing that I drew from Isiah the first time I met him was just being able to interact one-on-one with a champion, because I had never been around a champion and had the chance to really interact on a personal level that way until I met Isiah. So again, I had always seen him on the other side, meaning playing against him as a player, but obviously grew up watching him play and had a tremendous amount of respect for him. And again, I agree with you, Doug. Zeke was ahead of his time. He will flourish in today's game like none other, even more so, I think, than he did in the 80s and the 90s. So to be around somebody who you knew was great at what they did, but not just great, but driven and had the ability to pass those lessons along, I just wanted to absorb everything that I could from him during the time. And the speech that he gave me wasn't one like he gave Tracy and Damon. It was more like the one he gave Reggie. Like, okay, we want you to set the screens. We want you to lay the wood when they come through the paint. And, again, I'm a power forward / center. So I knew I was going to be playing both positions. And he told me, he said, we're going to, we want to get Big O. You're going to like playing with Big O because Big O can pass the ball. So we're going to let you play your natural position as a power forward. And again, that was music to my ears because I had been forced to play center on some other teams because that's just the way it felt. But to get that opportunity in Toronto, I really cherish the time that I had, and I appreciate Isiah bringing me in.
Hey, what's wrong with you, man? Earl.
What's happening, man?
What's up, baby?
Oh, we got Earl on here. Earl. What's up, Earl, man?
Hey, man, come on with you young cats, man.
Earl, they're still young cats, and I know you were with Isiah in Detroit. When you came to Toronto, you must have become in the mentor role. And like you said, now all these young cats, I'm sure you had a lot of teaching to do, brother.
I definitely was there to mentor because I was at the very end. I had a bad injury after winning the championship with Houston, and Isiah, we played together in Detroit. He told me when it was over he had something going on, but I didn't know it was going to be this big. So I was excited when I got the call to come in, and I got to Toronto and I got down there with a great group of guys. I spent a lot of time with Reggie and Damon, and the nights me and Damon stood up and talked, and Doug and all those guys. Reggie, it was great, having an opportunity to come in there, knowing I wasn't going to be able to play a whole lot, but to take care of them, to kind of show them the ropes, make sure they stayed out of trouble, and things like that. So it was great. The year that I came in, it was one of the best places I had been to, and I had been to some good teams over the years.
Reg, I'm going to jump up to you. Your thoughts on the Raptors winning the championship. I want to go around the horn here because you guys were all here laying the foundation, but just let's go around the horn here. Reg, start with you. Your thoughts when you saw the Raptors win the championship last year.
I felt great for Toronto because it felt like, a return on your investment, right? Because those fans had invested so much for so many years. And I got a chance to see Damon and a couple of the other guys go up there to show their support from the players' position. And, man, it was just an awesome feeling to know that you were a part of that from many years past. But I felt really good for the people up there and for the organization. It was awesome seeing that.
Tracy?
Felt like a proud papa, man, because we all we were there in the dark days. We were there setting the foundations when, doing the grind work, so they don't end up like Vancouver. So to see, off of the sweat of everybody that's on here, them finally reach the pinnacle and win that championship. And there are some that still haven't won a championship.
Yeah.
To see the Raptors do it in 24, 25 years, man, I felt like a proud papa.
Damon, I know you've got to go soon, so I want to get your thoughts. But the man who jumped center in the first game for the Toronto Raptors, I'm not going to ask him his thoughts on the Raptors winning because he's got a Rockets hat on now. He's working for the Rockets. Eddie Pinckney joining us. Damon, give me your thoughts on Toronto winning the championship as Eddie jumps in here. What's up, Ed?
Finally got the audio going.
Nice.
How you guys doing?
All is well.
Good, man.
Hey, Eddie.
Easy.
All is good. All is good. What's up, Tone?
What's happening, brother?
I'm good, man.
Damon, give me your thoughts on the Raptors winning the title.
Oh, it was big. I think just for the same reasons that everybody said, earlier. And we man, it was some tough times, man. Playing. Let me say, playing the Skydome wasn't bad. It was practicing the Skydome. So I'm telling you,
man,
you watch those games, you watch the games, and you watch them win, and probably you, Paul, you can go back and you can remember all those dog days, and you think about how far the team and the organization has come, practicing in the Skydome cold, birds flying in. It was crazy, man. So for them to finally, get to that pinnacle, it was really great to see. And then, from the standpoint of Kyle Lowry, he was really happy for him because the thing about it is everybody on this call, they helped me when I was a rookie. And when Kyle got drafted by Memphis, I think it was my 11th year. And I had just had a major injury. I couldn't play no more. Like, you know what I mean? So you kind of like, you're helping him to try to be the best he can be,
Right.
And so to finally see, because I know everything that he's went through in his career, to get to that point. So I was really happy for him. And then, just the city in itself, because they deserve that.
All right, Damon, I know you got to go. You had told
No,
us that
Paul, hey,
before,
Paul. I had told Elaine I'm gonna check off when I need to check off. I'm not checking off until the second hour.
Okay. Good. Shu, see, he did that to me. I ain't subbing out. See that?
That's Big Paul. That's what he do.
Wake me up.
Hey, Paul, real quick too. Let me leave you with this because Shu popped in, and when you had asked me about Isiah and the relationship. Now I want to say this because this doesn't happen in the NBA at all. This doesn't happen. We all have been with several organizations. I remember when Willie Anderson because Willie got traded for Doug. Mm-hmm. And so what happened is that Isiah called me and told me to come to his office and we talked. And he said, man, I'm about to make this deal. He said, I'm about to trade Willie. And he said, I wanted to call you first and talk to you because when I was in Detroit, he said, when I was in Detroit, they traded Greg Kelser And he was like, Greg Kelso was my vet. And it threw me off as a rookie, man. I'm with Greg every day. He kind of showing me the ropes. And then they trade him. And he was like, I was in a funk for a little while. And he was like, if I trade Willie, you're going to be all right, aren't you? And then he said, trade him to New York. And then and I was like, you know, I gave him the right spiel. And I was like, man, Willie, you know, he deserves that opportunity. Willie was getting towards the end. He needed to be with a good team. But I said, well, who you trading him for? And then he was like, well, we going to get Doug Christie back. And I was like, okay, man, I'm good now. Because me and Doug had known each other. You know, I had known Doug's agent. I mean, me and Doug, you know, it was way good. The whole history of me and Doug at that time, you know, made that really easy. But just think about it, guys. No general manager, president, nobody managing organization. They're not asking you nothing like that.
Yeah.
They're not asking that.
Absolutely not.
Eddie, we got Oliver Miller coming in, but Eddie, I want you to tell me how you ended up in Toronto.
Exactly.
Look out, coming. Look out.
Ace, look at Ace.
Ace, you fool, boy.
Tell me about you coming to Toronto.
Listen, before I even answer that question, get Oliver Miller in here ASAP.
Go.
I'm going to Oliver too.
He's coming, Eddie. You'll know when he comes in. Trust me.
No, that's great. I mean, this is a great, forum to be a part of and stuff. I came in the expansion draft. I mean, I was just with Milwaukee. And it was a very young team I was playing with, and came up in the expansion draft just like a lot of the guys on that early part of the Raptors team did. And I remember, it's funny listening to Damon talk about those Skydome days. I remember them very well.
There he is.
Oh, there he is.
Hey,
I'm lost out.
Yeah,
Oh, they laughing at me. Look at old Derek.
What's up, home?
Hello.
Hello. Y'all see me now? Am I here?
Big O.
What up, fellas? What up?
Big O.
Look like he in shape. Oh, you in shape, man?
Big O, I can't hear you. Big O, I
Taking everybody.
You
can't
can't
hear
hear
you,
me?
Big O.
Who can't hear me?
We can hear you. Man. We can hear you.
We can hear you, man. Don't listen to
What up, fellas?
Hey, John Shoemate, how was it controlling this ragtag group as a coach?
Man, you know what? You didn't control those guys. They had their own personalities. They had strong you know what was so unique about this group is that they were, and Isiah, it was part of Isaiah's genius to put this group together. They were really, really smart basketball players, high IQ. I guarantee you that O is one of the all-time great, most intelligent basketball players to play the game. I mean, he played it as a big man, but he was like a point guard. Doug and all these guys, really smart, but great personalities. As you can see, this is where it was during the year. Isiah would have to say, come on, guys, y'all got to get serious. But it's great. I mean, all these guys.
Hey, Shu, I got some bruschetta for you. Shu.
Why you want to give me some bruschetta?
Jimmy King.
What up, baby? Look at y'all. Hey, what's up with y'all old guys?
Old guys.
Jimmy, we were getting everybody's impressions of Toronto when they first came here. Oliver, I want to get to you and Jimmy and Ed in particular, but Jimmy, let's start with you. Your impressions when you were told you were going to end up in Toronto.
I didn't know too much about Toronto when I first found out about it, but I did know our boy Isiah Thomas was running the team and part of the administration. And a couple of years prior to that, when it was a secret, he let me in on that secret. So, me being the great student I am, I didn't do any research. So when I got there, I had to hang out with my partners and hit the city and really just integrate, organically, find out all the local spots,
spots that people hang out, where they frequent, get food at. But overall, my impression is one of the top 5 cities in this world.
Oliver, you'd been on a team that had been to the finals. What was it like for you when you ended up in Toronto?
It was cool. You know, Zeke gave me a heads up, like, you know, we're gonna take you. I'm like, all right. So it was around was that Mother's Day? And I remember being in Vegas during the time it was the draft, and I'm like, I ain't heard my name yet. I was the last one picked. So I was like, you know, I'm cool. So I remember John Shu calling me, and he was introducing himself. And, you know, then I got a call from Brandon. And then when I got to the city, it was cold.
Real cold.
I mean, I'm coming from Detroit, but, you know, that's that same water, but it's colder up north.
This is Raptors 25th reunion, the OGs right here. Episode 2, we got all the players on. If you wanted to see episode 1 with Isiah, John Bitove, David Peterson, Samuel L. Jackson, and Magic Johnson, who surprised us last week, you can watch it here. Next week, we got the Game Ops crew, and then the week after that, we've got the broadcast people. But I want to keep jumping around. Eddie, you said you were in Milwaukee. You'd also played in a big city in Boston. Your thoughts on being with these guys, because as I don't know who it was, like Tony said that it was, and Tracy, like guys just kind of being thrown together, but everybody getting a chance to rewrite their own script.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the whole scene at that time was about. New team into the league, and, you know, everybody trying to make their mark. But I think the one thing that was very apparent, like, I mean, and we have John Shu on here. We had a really good coaching staff. You know, all the players can attest to this that are on this call. Like, what really makes your stay in any NBA city important is, you know, your access to you know, the local things that are in the city. And Toronto had everything. I mean, that place was awesome in terms of restaurants,
yeah, it was
nightlife, and, you know, that made your initial you know, touchdown in the city that much more great. But I mean, we had a very organized coaching staff, and they really did a great job, you know, headed up by Isiah and John Bitove, of, you know, making everybody feel very at home. I tell this story to a lot of current NBA players because this has never happened in my career. Isiah Thomas, my first Christmas in Toronto, brought all our families to Toronto.
Yeah, he did.
Forget that.
Yes, he did.
I mean,
Yes,
it was
he did.
an amazing experience to,
Then
you know,
flown to
he wanted a
Detroit the
family
next night.
atmosphere. Yeah, and they wanted to make sure everybody's families were together. And, you know, they made that happen. And that's something that, you know, in all the teams that I've played on, that's never happened before. But there was a really family kind of atmosphere very on with that team.
Tracy, what did you miss most about Toronto when you left?
these guys. I mean, come on, look at the colorful personalities here. The fans, everybody really took to us. They put their arms around us as a team and really like held on to us. We became a part of them. And when you leave the team, you leave the organization, you leave that country and that city, you know you're in another organization. That organization, they did things different. They didn't do everything the same. Like where, yeah, we got our salaries and and all of that, but they fed you. I mean, you guys can attest to this. We didn't get food with any other organization, organized meals and stuff like that. They fed us up there. They may have had some food in like the second time around, especially. It's like they had food in the locker room, like after shoot around. So it's like they didn't do this in any other organization. Just the personal touches. How many? Now, come on, who was in the hood? Tone. We're back there playing dominoes and blasting the music, and you got Bitove back there with us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he back there with us. So
Tracy had his big boom box.
You know what I'm saying? and we back there talking all kinds of trash and playing dominoes. So how many owners do you have that would come from the front of the plane and come back and sit in the hood back there with everybody else and be a part of the action? How many general managers do you know that had a personal relationship with everybody on the team? I don't know that in any other organization. Not one general manager other than Isiah talked to me.
Yeah.
So
Reg,
you're leaving something special.
Reg, do you keep in touch with anybody from Toronto?
Yeah, I've DM'd all these guys and asking for their phone number, and nobody will get in contact. You know what I was thinking was,
Reggie, you need to stop that. I'll comment on your son.
But I will say this, you know, I got history with, you know, most of these guys. Big O and I have been knowing each other through like 17, I think.
Yeah.
Mass and I played overseas together. Doug and I knew each other from the All-Star game, I think, in the college deal.
Yeah.
Biggie, when I first came to Toronto, I don't know if Biggie remember this or not. Like, he came to my hotel room, picked me up, and drove me around, just and kind of embraced me with the city and all that. So again, man, I just keep on saying, a special group of people. Shu made he was a pain in my ass since the day one.
You do everything open.
Earl showed me. Earl was the true vet, So yeah, I got great memories.
I got to give a shout out to my boy. I got to give a shout out to my boy Pinckney for taking care of me in Boston. So,
AC will connect after this, man. There's a lot to catch up on.
Right. So I never forget. Pink used to always say, when you go back to your arena, you just go active. Just give it to him. So I just went to give it to him. I just went active. That's some of our Boston talk right there. But all those moves were courtesy of my man John Shoemate with the post and drills before the game.
Shoemate to make sure you got your
footwork right. Getting that limo, you can get around.
With the fruit basket.
With the limo tonight.
Right.
Hey, Ace would have had 60 if he didn't run out of gas.
You know what happened? He always had them Big Macs. He always ate them Big Macs and drink coffee before the game.
What's that,
I said he always drink a cup of coffee, eat a Big Mac before the game. That's why he ran out of gas.
Damn. All right, we go around the horn here. You guys know that Toronto was one of two teams in Canada, Toronto and Vancouver. Did you, and Tony, you played for both. Did you guys feel the rivalry within the country of the two teams? I mean, I always said that it was the other 28 teams you had to worry about, but how much did you guys coming to Canada feel that rivalry with Toronto and Vancouver? Earl?
Well, let me just say I felt it first. Again, I did a little bit of getting around in the city when I first got there because I was a year removed from being in Europe the year before. So I was kind of on the adventurous side at that point, meaning when I go to a new city, I want to get out and kind of just see what's going on. And I figured it out real quick that there was going to be a serious rivalry developing between the Raptors and the Grizzlies because it already existed. So now you just add basketball to the mix. It existed in hockey, and so you add basketball to that mix now and you feel it. And then once I got to Vancouver some years later, then I felt the same thing when I was in Vancouver. No matter if we lose every game this year, just make sure we win against Toronto and everybody's happy for the most part. So you could definitely tell different times what was going on. So,
and Isiah would oftentimes have to settle things down because, as you can see with these colorful personalities, that oftentimes we would take it a little bit far because we enjoyed having fun together. And Isiah would have to say, "Hey, come on, man, y'all got to get focused, get focused." But these guys, it was one of the few teams that I've been around that could horse around and have a lot of fun and still keep the focus of going to play and get it done. But you had Oliver Miller, who was probably one of the greatest passing big men, and he was saying like Biggie Smalls come in there as a rookie and all. So it was really, really a lot of fun, and surprisingly how good and talented all these guys were to take them and put them together as one group and have fun, but also go out there and play the game. Because, you know, Isiah, nobody's more competitive than Zeke.
Right. Jimmy, you were a rookie. Damon talked about this as a rookie coming in, really not knowing what to expect, but you get to Toronto and you're surrounded with vets. I mean, guys like Oliver, who was, in the finals. John Salley won a championship. You know, Earl was on those great teams in Detroit. What was it like for you coming in as a rookie?
For me, coming in, it was welcome to the show. It was a lot of fun just to be around the fellas and really just being around that type of talent that, you know, steel sharpens steel. And, you know, like Coach Shu was just saying, the camaraderie, the time we spent on the bus, in the hotels, different cities, like that is what I always had coming up. At Michigan, it was the same type of atmosphere. So in Toronto, it was important for me to be around, you know, guys I consider my brothers. And to this day, a lot of us have contact with each other, and I can't wait to get everybody's contact. I'm gonna hit all y'all up.
Yeah.
So that we could get together and hopefully make it a reality and get back to Toronto so we could sit down face to face. But it was great to have veterans that, you know, took us under their wing and taught us the game. Alvin Robertson,
Willie Anderson,
along with the guys that you see today. So I owe a lot to you guys and to the guys mentioned, and it was a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun.
Now, I want to throw this open to all of you guys, and as we go around the horn here. Is there a personal story about your time in Toronto or something that really resonates with you? It can be serious. It can be funny. It can be a plane ride. It could be practice, whatever. I'm looking for a volunteer to start this.
I'll go first. Let me go first.
Okay.
I'll go first.
Club 69.
Hey, Studio 69.
No.
Damn. That's what you
I don't remember the egg got traded with me.
I don't remember that. When did it?
You
When was that?
remember that, D? You remember that when we had a team meeting and Brandon went around the room and he was talking about how Alvin this, Alvin that. I said, man, shut up. Everybody work hard. And then he started crying, talking about, Ed Pinckney, I love you. You don't say nothing. And I can't do anything because you just sit there.
Yeah.
Y'all remember that, Ed?
I do remember that. That was
I'll
one of
tell
those.
you what I remember. I remember traveling.
Crazy part of the season, man.
I remember traveling all day to Utah and passing Eddie Pinckney and Tony Massenberg in the hotel lobby saying, where are you guys
Going the other way.
I said, I'm coming in for the game and you guys are going out. And that was my welcome to moment in the NBA in terms of trade deadline. I'm like, Eddie, where are you going? He said, I'm going back to Philly. Tony, I don't even remember where they traded you to.
They traded me to Philly the year before they drafted Allen Iverson. So I was probably the only guy that left Toronto and went to a worse team than the expansion team that I was already on. The Philadelphia 76ers. When I tell you how bad that team was, brother, we had 13 free agents. I can stop right there. 13 guys on the last year of that team. So
that's work.
Need I
You want
say
to know what's crazy? What's crazy about that trade? Now that you say that, because we played Utah, we got Herb Williams for one game.
Yeah, we sure did.
One game.
There we go.
Herb Williams played for one game. He played with us one game.
One game, and then he was bought out, right? It was
Yeah,
released.
something like that. I can't remember, but one game.
Went back to New York.
I remember this was pretty sad, but I mean, when Damon at the end, they were talking about, he knew he was going to get traded. He was waiting. He wanted to be traded. He wanted out. He was fed up with it. And supposedly he was going to get traded when the game was over with. Like a lot of cats now, they don't play. He went out and scored about 39, 40 points that game. Ran in the locker room trying to find out where he was going in the trade. He just broke down in tears, and I remember that more than anything.
No, he was gone. No, he didn't play because we only had 7 people.
Well, they didn't move him that game. They talked about
the New Jersey game.
I tell you what happened. What happened was, it was just in turmoil. It was, the crazy thing about it, first of all, I would have handled that way different. When you're older, you mature. If you remember, I remember we played Sacramento. They called me and told me don't come to the arena. So we played Sacramento. They called me and said, don't come to the arena. You're going to get traded. You're getting traded to Houston. It was me, Walton, Carlos. We were going for Mario Elie, Kevin Willis, and Matt Bullock. And I had talked to Carol Dawson, who was the general manager, and they told me don't go to the gym. And so I'm sitting at home, and maybe an hour before the game, they said the trade got nixed. Other people, because there were other people that called and had better deals on the table, and they said, you got to come to the gym. And I came to the gym and had like 37 and 13.
Oh my goodness!
But it worked.
And I remember that's what I remember about that day. I remember that.
But when you did get traded, you left us shorthanded.
Right? Talk about it.
Me, Doug, who else was it, Doug?
Yeah, I think that might have been it.
Man, it was just 7 of us.
I didn't even know you could play with 7 people, bro.
Man, me either.
This team right here, it was bar none. It was, I just hadn't had fun like that. Like right. With winning guys, winning comes cost. And when I got the teams that won, man, it's a fine line, man. Like, you kind of lose focus of what this is all about. You know what I'm saying? And it will never be, you guys have said it, it will never be a first year like what we had together. Families traveling to games. We was getting meals before meals was even thought of with organizations. Yeah. General manager asking this player, man, he actually asked that about Ed Pinckney too. Ed, you wasn't on the line yet, I don't think. Isiah asked about Willie Anderson. Did I mind him getting traded because, when he was in Detroit, Greg Kelser got traded, and he was like, that messed him up. He actually asked about you too. Well, you got traded. He did. And, that stuff just don't happen in the NBA, man. It don't happen.
Nah, it was, again, it was special to develop that kind of chemistry and trust in the front office at the beginning. I mean, that's hard, man. It just doesn't happen. And somehow, some way, I mean, they were able to talk honestly about trades to people, who was coming in. I mean, it was an honest conversation.
It was really weird.
You have to think about how young Isiah was too. It wasn't like, Isiah he played 9 years in the NBA, and and a couple years after he's owning a basketball franchise. I mean, that's pretty incredible to think about his age and what he was able to accomplish.
It's like what I learned from those first couple years in Toronto is like when I'm coaching my college kids now, my coaches tell me, man, you too honest sometimes. And I'm like, man, I can't, you know what I mean? Like, I can't go lie to families. Like, if y'all got kids, I can't come up in there and lie and say something that it's not going to be, because I don't want to be held accountable for that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
And it get hard. And when I was an assistant coach, when I got into coaching, and when I was at Arizona and Memphis, it's such big time basketball. Man, you get the script before you go in there, and you like, man, I'm not feeling this, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't, you know what I mean? It's hard. I'm just telling you, it's hard. That's why it's so different. It was so different those first couple years.
Big. What's crazy, man, is as we all talk, man, you can see, Paul, what Isiah meant to every single person here, and what he put together. After Big and Tracy and those guys left, I remember vividly. He hit me in the condo. He said, "Hey, come up here," and I walked up, took the elevator, went up to his condo, walked in. And he had a VCR for those that might be not.
Oh,
not
they still had those.
Yeah. You put the tape in the machine and you can watch the video. Okay. So he pops in the video, and it's a game, and it's a high school game, and he didn't say anything, and I just started watching. Well, obviously one dude jumped off the screen. And I'm like, damn, who is that? And I looked at him, and I said, you could get him? He was like, yeah, it was Tracy McGrady. I said, man, if you could get him for real. I mean, them is the type of conversations that you don't get. You don't get that type of relationship. Absolutely. And it was refreshing, man. It was fun.
Absolutely.
Guys, you guys played in an era when it was a different era of the NBA, and it's all kind of coming back to all of the young people now with The Last Dance being aired. I want to go around the room and get your thoughts on that, because that's a different era. There are things that the way the game was played, that the physical nature of it's very different than now. I want to go around the room and kind of get people's thoughts on that. Reg, let's start with you. I haven't heard from you in a while.
The game has changed in such a way for a guy like me, it'd be very, very difficult for me to be in the league. I think the game, the way it's catered now, is towards these shooters that you see on the screen. It's not necessarily going in there and doing something so physical that if I were to do that today, it would be a technical foul.
Right.
So the game has changed in order to accommodate various things, honestly. But I do miss those old days. I'll tell you what, looking at The Last Dance, I think all of us can agree it all sparked a little memories, because if you didn't see yourself in there at some point, you saw somebody that and you can call them up and be like, yo, you got busted. Tracy, you was on there several times. They make you a poster boy of sorts on there. So
yeah, getting killed by Mike.
You know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, why are they doing him like that? I was waiting for them to side of it. But it was great seeing that. I enjoyed it.
Jimmy, what about you? You were a youngster. You and Damon were kind of young guys, unlike the other guys that had been around the league. And Shu, you had played in the era just prior to that. So Jimmy and John, I want to hear from you, your thoughts on The Last Dance.
One thing that I noticed that they didn't show in the documentary is our team beating that team in the we were expansion team. We're one of the 10 teams that beat the Bulls that year. That's a testament to what we were just talking about trusting each other, the camaraderie, how much we enjoy playing for each other and with each other. And it came from the top down with Isiah. And it resonated on the court, being one of the 10 teams to beat the Bulls. And that's
Didn't we get booed?
That's what,
Didn't we get booed?
Oh, absolutely. We did. We got booed for winning. But that experience we'll never forget. I'll never forget that experience. And that's one of the first stories I tell about obviously my MJ moment and being
Shu?
Yeah, but if you did, but if you guys,
I
just want to jump in real quick. If you remember that's one of the games Isiah tipped us that we could get them, because I think they came from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Then the Raptor threw the party, and it was a 12 o'clock tip-off. And so all the moons aligned, and that's how we got them.
But even with that insight, right? Even with that insight, you don't get that from everybody. A lot of people doesn't get that insight. It goes a long way.
I'm going to get to you, but I want to tell you guys something. This was last year when Portland beat Toronto in Toronto on a Sunday afternoon. Terry Stotts, the head coach in Portland, said the first line in his news conference after the game was, "We just won the most difficult game there is in the NBA, a Sunday afternoon in Toronto." So a testament to what you guys were saying. Shu, take me through the preparation for that game. That's a landmark game.
Well, you know, the thing that was hard for me is because where I come from, playing at Notre Dame and then the NBA during my time, you know, everything was always really serious. You know, there was no BSing. I had John McCloud. I mean, I had several coaches in the NBA that were real strict disciplinarian. You couldn't laugh. You had to always be at attention. At Notre Dame, when I played there with Digger, it was the same thing. Everything had to be bam, bam, right on, you know, like tight. No, and if you laughed, it was like, what are you're not focused. Going with this group, and you can see these personalities where they are. That's the way they were doing practice before the game. But I had to see how this is going to work, because all of these guys did, to me, based on the era that I come from, that they weren't ready to play, because they were all just like you. They're laughing with each other and they're playing and having fun. And I'm like going, and I said to Isiah one time, I said, Isiah, man, these guys, they're not ready to play. And he said to me, he said, no, Shu, you from a different era than these guys, man. You're going to have to learn that it's a new breed. And I said, oh, okay, we'll see about this new breed. and you know,
take a point.
When the ball was thrown up, I mean, they were serious. I mean, Big O was probably the next, right there with Kareem and a couple of as the best passing big men ever to play the game. Doug Christie, one of the best all around, and I'm serious, one of the best all around players to play the game. I mean, Damon, as you say, Damon,
Doug Christie, the first two-way player.
Yeah.
Cut it out, eh?
There you go.
And like Damon was so tough. You know, this little guy coming out there, and they called him Biggie Smalls. And I'm like going, I mean, and he was working. I mean, it was all these personalities that you're seeing. It was the amazing thing for me was how they were able to go from the personalities you see now to that seriousness on the floor. And we were always the games, even the games that we didn't win, we were always competitive and right there. And these guys thought that they should win every game. But again, it started with Isiah, and Isiah he told me, you got to look and learn, because you know you come from that old school, all that Notre Dame BS. He said. And so
I think what the thing was that everybody that he brought in, we was all so competitive, and that we held each other accountable, and that's why you know, no matter what matchup he put with on the floor, it's just like we just gel together, because it's just how we were just so close, and we
intelligence
just went in, and everybody knew the game, and it just made it easy. And then, you know, once you get Biggie started on that pig and roll up top, it ain't no stopping that. And then when you kick it to Doug and Tracy, I mean, ain't no stopping that. So you know, hey, when we was on.
What time?
Go ahead, Doug.
The fun that we was able to have, man, on the court, because I can't remember who it was Damon had on the wing, and he crossed dude up, and dude fell down like a timber, like and like it was a timeout called, and we walking off the floor. I'm like, yeah, bust his ass, D, and we come into the huddle, and I had like, you don't have fun like that on the floor, but we was having fun. Would just come on and be like, man, will you go ahead and do your thing, man? Quit playing around. I mean, those are the type of conversations that we were having, man. It was beautiful, man.
Hey, Tracy, you had told me when we talked on Instagram that, you know, Damon and Jimmy and these guys were talking about getting the Bulls that day because they were coming from somewhere and the party and the whole bit. You would give me a little insight into that. Share it with these guys, would you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we all knew about the Raptors party. You know what I mean? It's like guys were in there for a second. Then when everybody started trickling out, you know what I mean? Then, you know, Toronto's finest was up in there, keeping them occupied. You know, the cigars and the alcohol was flowing. And so, yeah, we're at 12 o'clock tip-off game the next day on a Sunday afternoon game. You know, Ron Harper told me years later, this was like earlier this year, we talked about it. We were hanging out, we were laughing about it. And he said, T, do you remember like warm-ups when you guys come out there and warm up and you shoot around? I'm like, yeah, I remember. He goes, you notice you guys had both baskets? I said, yeah, the only people that was out there was like Kerr, Kukoc and those guys. He said everybody was in the back, laying down, drinking water, drinking Gatorade, trying to get right because they were still messed up. I mean, it didn't stop until like 8 in the morning for them from what Hart told me. So it was a long night, short morning to that game. So if we were going to get them, and with Isiah having this intel and telling everybody, and we knew they were out, but we didn't know how long they were out. So it was definitely an opportune time to get them. So we played great that day, man. And I tell you what, another thing, you see how everybody is here, right? We're on and off the court. We were brothers. We went everywhere together. We were in a country that we didn't really know about. We didn't know anybody in the city. We went everywhere together. So when you go everywhere together, you eat, you go out, you have fun, you go to practice. After practice, we're together. It's like when you're together this much, we're a band of brothers. And then O was absolutely right. We held each other accountable, and it wasn't taken personal because for how much we laugh and joke with each other, we should be able to take some constructive criticism with each other. We've been with each other long enough to trust each other and know where each other's coming from and knowing what was said is coming from a good place. So we were brothers. We did everything together on and off the court. And I think that's why this group was so special.
Hey, so remember this. Hold on, remember this. So remember this. And I'm not going to say another word. We played about the 7th game of the year, man, and we played the Utah Jazz. And I was like, man, I'm going to wear John Stockton out, man. I'm about to get in John's ass. Everybody was like, man, Biggie, he good. I said, look, man, I'm about to get in his ass, man. John Stockton wore me out. Everybody was on my helmet about that, man. I didn't live it down. I couldn't wait till we got to Utah, but that was like 2 or 3 months later. That's how we did. That's how we got at each other, though. That's how it was. That's how we got at each other.
All right, let me bring up the game now.
Number 12 limo.
Yeah, the limo.
Everybody talks about the Chicago game. I want to bring back 2 games in particular. Opening night against the New Jersey Nets, and second of all, the game on TNT when Gary Payton, Sean Kemp came in, and Damon had the franchise's first ever triple-double winning on TNT. I want to bring those 2 games into the forefront, and any thoughts on those 2 games, particularly opening night. I mean, Jimmy, Tony, you didn't play, but AC, Damon, Tracy, Oliver, you guys were there. Eddie, you jumped center. Opening night. Give me your thoughts on that.
First Raptor to block a shot. First Raptor to block a shot. First Raptor to make a free throw. First Raptor to get in double. Hey, they can never take that record away from me.
Hey, that's one thing I remember about you, AC. You gonna keep up with your stats. What I remember about that opening night was just the energy for me, just trying to feel the energy, looking across and looking at, a high school hero of mine, Derek Coleman, and a great friend of mine. So walking on the court with the former #1 draft pick, being in the NBA I was just trying to soak in the moment. And, watching my guys get off because we went hard. So now it's time to unleash and kick the season off. So for me, it was just get the popcorn ready and sit back and watch. And if I got my chance to get in, be ready.
Jimmy, it's funny you say that because the energy was, it was on 10. And then for me, like growing up, like you got childhood idols like Isiah for a basketball player. That was like my guy because, little guard. But, man, the next dude for me was Kenny Anderson, man. Lefty, and, you playing against him on opening night. you know, and it was just, man, I'm not gonna lie, man, my heart was beating. My heart was about to fall on that floor, man. It was just, I was excited, nervous, a whole lot of things at the same time. But, you know, one thing I'll say about being nervous, and I tell everybody this, the moment you don't have them butterflies and your heart don't beat, it's time to quit playing. That's when you know you're done. Yeah. That's when you know you're done. And so, you know, like that every game. But that first game, it was just like, damn. And I don't know how many people was at the game, but it definitely, it wasn't quite Chicago, but it probably was the second biggest crowd we had all year.
It was a great crowd. It really was. I also remember that season in the opening game. After that, we went to Indiana on a back-to-back the next night. And, I mean, the Pacers they were a good team. They had Reggie. They had Dale and Antonio Davis. Derek McKee, and here's the expansion team going in after winning opening night. And I remember, Shu, maybe you can correct me on this, but I remember team was down about 15, 20 points at halftime because a guy came to me and gave me the stat sheet and he said, expansion team, huh? And he shook his head. and I remember, Shu, in the second half, you guys just said, spread the floor and pointed to Damon and said, there's Mark Jackson. He can't guard you.
Yeah, you know what? And that's when really that you knew then during that game, you said, oh, okay, I get it now because these guys had something special. Because Biggie Smalls, I mean, you know, to see how he was able to ISO and take guys off the dribble and score with that confidence, big old passing the ball, rebounding, outletting it. I mean, it was a special group of guys, man. And the thing that I loved about them, they knew how like a lot of teams can get a lead, but then they always end up losing the lead and lose the game. And so they have close games with these guys. And it was probably because Biggie Smalls had the ball and he was able to do so much with the ball and isolate and create. And teams had to focus on him. That's why we were able to, I think, be successful down the stretch, especially for an expansion team as much as we were.
Do you guys remember, I know, Doug, you weren't there. I don't think you were there, Reg, but do any of you other guys remember the first game against Jordan in Chicago? Because after Indiana, 2 nights later, we were in Chicago against Jordan, Pippen, and that great Bulls team. What do you remember about the non-victory?
I remember that because, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if guys remember this, but Brendan was up on the board nervous. Brendan Malone, he was, you know, and Brendan was up there. You know, Brendan was up there. He was doing all this, and the next thing you know, if you guys remember this, he just turned around. He erased everything off the board, and then he pointed at me and said, "Man, the first 4 plays is isolation." I was like,
I remember that.
It was like 1-4 low. And that was when Mike was guard. You know, so he was guarding me on the initial. And, you know, we for whatever reason, we was a good matchup against the Bulls, though we always played them well. We only beat them that one time, but we always played them well. But, yeah, you know, that was a good game for us, too. But, yeah, that's when Brendan was a little shaky with that pen, man. Then next thing you know, he just erased the whole board.
But you know.
I think Shu like that.
Now, listen, what I'll say, too, though, but what I'll say, though, this is what I'll say. Me and Jimmy were rookies, man, so I'm listening and hanging on to every damn word. He could have told me to run through the wall, and I was going to try. You know what I mean? You just didn't know no better, man. You know what I mean? So
I think what made it easy a lot was that we had veterans like Alvin, Willie, Ed, and then John. You know, then it made it easy for me and Doug because we was the next oldest to you know, and I think during the training camp, and I can remember, you know, them 2.5, 3 hour tour days. Woo! We used to battle. We used to battle in there, and you know, I think that's what made us, you know, have faith in each other because we wasn't, you know, he was just one player on the sideline, not in there doing training camp, but when we was in there for them 3 hours, hey, we put in that work. So I think that's when we realized, you know, we got something special.
So look, real quick, and I promise you, I'm gonna let everybody. So listen, in training camp, because a lot of people wasn't there. You know, in training camp. So Thomas Hamilton. Who remembers Thomas Hamilton?
The ham.
So look, two things stick out about Ham. Okay. I don't know if y'all remember the practice where Ham got hurt and it was something roped off. And Ham was running, and he jumped over that rope. We was like, damn, Ham, that's the highest you jumped off. Second thing, Ham and Jimmy, I know Jimmy remembered. Because so Jimmy, you remember that time we was in the back of the bus, so Ham came on there, and he had 2 things of hot wings.
Yeah.
So Ham gets on the bus, and then all of a sudden, I was like, Ham, give me some of the wings. Ham was like, shh. Yeah, don't say nothing, man. You know they're gonna try to take my wings. I need my wings.
Hey, Damon. But how about every time Ham did something, one of the coaches was always on him. He said, "Why is everybody always calling my name?" Why
everybody calling Ham, man. Quit calling me, man. Everybody calling Ham.
I had Big Ham about 3 years after that in 1999 with the Houston Rockets. And what you were talking about, why is everybody calling my name? He was saying the same thing in Houston 3 years later. It didn't make a difference, man. That's just Big Ham. He was a talented dude, though. I will say that. I played with a lot of big guys. He just didn't understand the work ethic that was required. But as far as actual athletes, a 7'1", 7'2", 340-pound dude who was light on his feet, you don't see that every day. He just didn't understand the things that it would take to take him to the next level.
He could shoot. He could pass.
You talking characters, hey, Dane. You remember Martin Lewis?
Yes. Hog D's.
And my man, where's my man Vincenzo?
Oh,
yeah.
Fellas.
Now, guys,
I talked to Vincenzo, guys. I talked to Vincenzo is coaching. He got kids. He got young European kids. And the last time I had talked to Tabak, I know he's still head coach, but Tabak was the head coach of he was the head coach when my
European team.
Yeah. When I was in Memphis, we went to Spain, and the team over there in Spain, because it was a trip. Basically, it was for Pau Gasol, and so we played over there. And Tabak, he was the head coach. I can't remember the name of the team at the moment, but yeah, he's doing well. Tabak's doing well.
Yeah, guys, do you remember that?
I saw Tabak at an appearance, a charity event about a year ago in Toronto. So I saw him. He's doing well, and I saw Vincenzo at the the Las Vegas NBA Summer.
There you go.
So he was doing well there too. So I did see those two recently within the last year and a half.
Hey,
do you guys remember?
Y'all remember when Vincenzo? Y'all hold on real quick, Paul. Y'all remember when Chenzo, when Carlos used to pick on Chenzo, and then Chenzo went up there and dunked and said, "All you do is dunk, Los. I can dunk too. What else?"
They had a private dunk contest at the end of practice.
Hey, remember Carlos would go, "How does it look, Shu? How does it look, Shu?" Remember his dunk shot? Hey, do y'all remember the incident at the airport? I ain't gonna say, but y'all remember that with Tony? I'll leave it there then.
Shu, I remember that. I don't want to get into that one. I do want to ask you guys.
Yeah. Somebody got to tell me, because I done played for 12 teams. I done had a few run-ins. So you got to remind me of that one.
Shu, are you talking about
We'll talk about that one later, Shu.
Yeah, we're to off record. Yeah, absolutely.
I want to ask you guys, Damon, you talk about Jean Tabak. Do you remember the game in the first year that he had against Hakeem and the Rockets? Do you remember how well he played?
Yep.
Talk to me,
Wait a minute.
What you say,
Hey, okay. He played well. He played really well. in Toronto, I think it was, right? When
Yes.
we beat
It wasn't in Houston.
But then it's crazy because you know what? This what makes this team what it is. The beauty of it. We played in Houston, and he shot the ball over the backboard.
Yeah.
And boy Calvin Murphy on the air cussed, and he was like, "Oh, I couldn't say that."
No.
Yeah.
Tabak played really well against Hakeem. And you know what? Tabak had great moments. He had great moments for us.
Yeah.
You know,
We all did at some point.
You know,
They say everybody did. Oh.
Everybody did at some point. We had a choice. Earl had a good game one time.
Oh man, I need more O in my life, man.
Hey, y'all remember Vincenzo?
Yeah.
What do you say?
You remember Carlos and Vincenzo's one-on-one game?
Yeah, that was the dunk contest.
Oh shit!
Oh,
was lighting him up for a second though.
I want to bring it back here and go through the venue. What did you guys? I know Earl, you had played in the Silverdome, but what did the rest of you guys think about playing in the Skydome? Damon, you mentioned it a little bit. I want to go around the horn here and find out what some of you guys thought about playing in that building before they moved to the Air Canada Center, which eventually became Scotiabank Arena. And it's one of the hottest buildings in the place now. But take me back to those early days playing at Skydome.
Well, to be honest, if you played in college, I mean, you used to playing because when you go to the tournament, if you made the tournament, sometimes they turn the big arenas looking like the Skydome. So, you know, I was used to it. You know, it's like being in the March Madness to me.
It was just cold, man.
Yeah, hell yeah, it was cold, especially at practice. Like you said, everybody was in sweats during practice.
Yeah.
With the jerseys over their sweats. That's how cold it was in there. You could see your breath.
Yeah, it actually just felt like you were just playing basketball on a hockey rink.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just literally, it felt like somebody just told you to go out, set some baskets up on a hockey rink and play because you could feel the cold air. Like, you couldn't even tell where it was coming from. It was just, you just felt it all around. Like, constantly.
And Shu used to hurt our hands passing the ball in the big man drills.
It was really cold, Jonesy. It was cold in the arena, man. I mean, it was what it was. I mean, we adjusted. I mean, that was the one thing about this group, man. We really didn't complain, man. We just kind of went out there and did what we did, man. It was always, you know, because it was cold. You know, even when we would play games, like if the arena wasn't full, or if it was half full, like you could feel that. Like it was cold up in there, and them balls, and you know the ball coming off your hands, and you know, the floor was always dusty. And, you know, it was what it was, though.
Even with all that bad stuff, it become an advantage because the visiting team coming in wasn't used to it at all. You know, that's how the Silverdome was. We got used to. We had a curtain halfway through the Silverdome. You played the Silverdome.
The funny thing about it is when you think about, because we were in that wave, you know, I think I played in every old arena except Boston Garden and Chicago Stadium, but every arena at that time was old and dusty. Man, you used to go take a shower in Atlanta, man, the water, and that was pre-flip-flop, man. Dudes was putting towels going around. You know, the water come by your ankle, stuff like that. Like it's
pre-flip-flop.
Hey, you know what, Dan? You just touched on something because when I first got in the league in 1990, I know Ed knows about this. Nobody wore flip-flops.
Except Damon.
It just, when you think back on it, you were around guys who were in high school or college or whatever, you were not getting in the locker room. You were not going to the shower in flip-flops at that time. I'm going to say the flip-flop thing really became popular about mid-90s, Damon, right around the time you came into the league. And so you started seeing.
I was going to say, Damon had flip-flops.
Damon
had flip-flops, though.
Not everywhere. Damon
had flip-flops.
I probably did after they had flip flops at the Skydome for everybody, but after that, Lolly was lazy. Lolly wasn't trying to carry nothing, man. Man, where Lolly at, man? Shout out to John Lolly, man.
Hey, look at that.
Easy.
Guys, I want to ask you about the energy. And Damon, you talked about how cold it was. All you guys say that, but did you feel a different energy in the dome when the people were there on game night? Because that was probably the basis and the start for what we know as Toronto now in terms of Jurassic Park and as I said, you guys building the foundation. Did you feel a different energy in the building once it got going?
Now, what's funny is because I listened to you guys last week, and for some of you guys that wasn't on the call last week, it made a lot of sense. And like I said, I was young, and I wasn't really paying attention to this. When we played well, the Skydome was really lit. It was, fans was cheering like it was good. But when we was bad, right? Mm-hmm. So Isiah said last week on the call, that's why he said he wanted the prettiest looking Raptor dance pack, the girls who could dance and all that, take the focus off what we wasn't doing on the court at that time. But entertainment had to be on point. And if you think about it, the entertainment really made up for those games when we wasn't doing that. Because when you in the NBA, when you bad, you know you bad. Now, when you don't got it, you don't got it, right? And so you start going down the bench and start getting guys trying to, you don't have, but the entertainment was cool. And I think that the Skydome was always good when we were playing well. When we were in games and things of that nature. The fans was always good, man. If we gave them something to be positive about, they were all into the game. They were always
absolutely.
Man, we got about 5 minutes left, guys, and this is the OG 25th reunion. Again, as Damon just alluded to, episode 1 is on this YouTube channel. You can go back and watch it last week with Isiah Thomas, John Bitove, the Honorable David Peterson, who was the Premier of Ontario. We had Samuel L. Jackson and Magic Johnson jump in. Next week, we're going to have the Game Ops crew, and the week after that, we're going to have broadcast. You guys are all welcome back if you want to jump in at any time. So,
hey, look, Jones. This is ahead. I know Elaine is on here. Elaine, what you got to do is we got to push this whole thing back, and we're gonna do the 25th anniversary on the 26th year. We need to do this face to face.
Yes.
So we can all be connected. We can all have fun. And we just need to reschedule all of this for next year. But this is a good prelim for what's to come.
Wait a minute, hold on, Damon. I thought you said you were gonna stop talking. You've been talking for the last 30 minutes.
I know. I'm done talking.
No. But I was gonna say the same thing.
There's Elaine right here.
All right.
We got it.
I heard you loud and clear. 100%. That was my goal. I was super, super disappointed that we couldn't do our in-person party this year because of the pandemic. I 100% want to bring everyone back together. I love seeing you guys. I know that the staff, it's hard to explain to people that weren't part of the organization at the time, the family bond that we all have. You guys have shared so many great memories. So 100% next year, we are doing this live when it's safe to bring everyone back. We're going to have the most lit party. So the other thing I want to mention was something that Isiah and John brought up last week about us kind of setting the foundation. And a lot of it was education and teaching people in Canada, people in Toronto, to get them on board about basketball and the NBA. A lot of it had to do with stuff that we did together. All those appearances, school visits, autograph signings, store appearances. I know you guys hated me at the time for dragging you guys out to a school at 8 a.m. Sometimes, I think AC, this one time I squished you in my Honda Civic to drive you to a school appearance, folded you in half and put you in my car. But I really appreciate everything you guys did going out into the community. It was so important for setting the foundation of where basketball is in Toronto, but not even Toronto, but making the country fall in love with basketball.
Elaine, I will echo that. Fellas, you have no idea the impact that the Raptors have had on this country. And Tony, you talked about it. Being in Vancouver, all they wanted to do was beat Toronto. Toronto is the center, and it's one of the major centers in Canada, and it's not always everybody's favorite. But I'm going to tell you, last year when the Raptors were headed for the championship, they were opening football stadiums in Western Canada so people could go in and watch the games. And I want to let you guys know that, I mean, Elaine has been here from the start. I've been here from the start. You guys all helped lay the foundation, and it's great to be able to talk with you again. Elaine's going to be working on this, and there's a guy you can't see running all this, our director, Brian Sherriffe. You know, for me as a broadcast person, I got to work with John Saunders, who was, you know, the late John Saunders, he was big time. He was ESPN big time. And when he was doing our games, that gave credibility. And our director, Brian Sherriffe, produced the World Championships, worked at ESPN. And for me, as a youngster in the business, again, that was big time. So shout out to Elaine, shout out to Brian and Isiah and John and the Slate family for getting all this done and really laying the foundation. I was a basketball guy in Canada, and people told me, oh, it's not going to work here. And I said to them, one day basketball is going to be as big or bigger than hockey, and nobody believed me. Everybody thought I was crazy, but you know, if we're not bigger than hockey now, we're at least on the same plane. I don't see any reason why you can't be both a hockey fan and a basketball fan. Final thoughts, guys, before we go. Anybody got any final thoughts?
I think because of the foundation we laid and all the players that came behind us all the way up into the championship team last year. I mean, look, think 25 years ago and think of how many Canadian basketball players are in the NBA now. Most of them from the Toronto area. I call them Raptor babies because they grew up on us.
Yes.
And everybody here was the reason why we all inspired those kids to go out and be great. So, you know, credit to everybody here for coming in and busting their tails in that first year, because without the foundation being laid, the building doesn't form.
Guys, we've got to wrap this up. Awesome to see all of you. I look forward to next year when we can be face-to-face in the same room and talking and doing this all over again. Reminder to the fans watching, you can go back and watch episode 1. This will be on the channel. We've got episode 3 next week with the Game Ops crew, and then episode 4 will be broadcast. Any of you guys are welcome. Want to thank Brian, want to thank Elaine. We'll see everybody next week.
See you guys.
Thank you. All right,
Thank you. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Elaine.
Thank
awesome
you.
stuff, fellas.
Take the point.
All right, Jonesy. All right, fellas.
All right, JK.
Take the point, Earl.
So nice to see you, Jimmy.
Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm going to reach out to all of you.